Buying at scrap value, 5,000 yuan a ton, I dropped 8,000 yuan on this 1970s Tianjin Jeep. Once I got it back to the shop and really inspected it, I was in shock. The condition of the sheet metal is horrific, far worse than I ever imagined. My mother always taught me to be grounded. Don't bite off more than you can chew, but the extent of the rot on this vehicle is honestly unbelievable. My initial plan was to do a complete restoration. These domestic Tianjin Jeeps are incredibly rare, so bringing one back to life would be historically significant. But the list of issues is endless. That's actually why I haven't posted a video in a while. I was torn between attempting a full restoration or just keeping it as a preservation piece. But I'm stubborn. I believe that no matter how rusted, beaten, or trashed a car is, if you put enough heart and effort into it, it can be saved. Our motto is, if it turns, we can fix it. So we're going all in. We're going to restore this properly. Inside the cabin, decades of neglect meant it was full of spare parts and random garbage. We're clearing everything out, salvaging the usable parts and tossing the junk. In the process, we found a cool relic, an old-school license plate, Hainan 3400624. That is a piece of history right there. We've stripped the floor of all the debris and grime to prep for the bodywork, but I'll be honest, the whole time I was cleaning, I was fighting an internal battle about this project. With the floors prepped, we moved to the engine. It's ancient and the surface is heavily corroded, but it looks like it should still turn over. We're scrubbing off years of caked-on dirt to prep it for a rebuild. The rust on this truck is extensive. We have to tackle it section by section. The priority is fabricating the front fenders, the rocker panels, and the wheel arches. We have to hand beat all of these panels back into shape. I know many of you will suggest a body-off restoration, separating the shell from the frame to make the panel beating easier. But looking at it now, that's too risky. The body integrity is so poor that if I lift the shell, it will likely disintegrate. Reassembling it would be impossible. It's a nightmare scenario. So, step one, we're doing the metal work in place. We'll fix the panels, hammer out the body lines, and secure the fenders. This is a massive project, so there's no room for sloppy work. We need patience and precision. All right, friends, put on your headphones. It's time for some immersive work. You know, clearing out 40 years of trash and rat nests leaves a smell that haunts you. That's why I keep brand names in the cabin. It's not just about covering up odors, it actually eliminates them. Whether you're driving a brand new whip or a 1970s relic like this, you want your ride to smell fresh, not like a history. Take a look at this, guys. It took a solid 6 days of panel beating just to get these two front fenders into shape, but the result is fantastic. But you know how it is. You fix one issue and the next one pops up immediately. The front fenders are done, but the rear end is completely rotted out. So we need to fabricate and shape the sheet metal for the back as well. The most crucial part of car restoration is having patience and attention to detail. On top of that, your craftsmanship has to be top-notch. All right, friends, enough talking. It's time to get to work. I believe everyone has a dream. Mine is to open a non-profit museum of Chinese automotive history, free and open to the public. I want it filled with a proud collection of our own domestic vehicles. Recently, some things have really tested my resolve, but I truly believe a historical museum like this deserves a proper home. So I'm going to keep pushing. I've got to keep fighting. This is the result of 2 weeks of work. It might not look like huge progress overall, but the detailed sheet metal fabrication is incredibly time-consuming. The next step is a big one. We're going to lift the body off the frame and send it off for sandblasting. There's a mountain of work ahead, but I'm going to pick up the pace on this Tianjin Jeep. Don't worry, little Jeep. I promise I'm going to fix you up and make you look brand new again. It's my money and my labor. There's no shortcut here. I just have to bite the bullet and get it done. It took over 10 days just to finish these front fenders. To me, the real joy of classic cars is taking a dusty, wrecked heap and meticulously bringing it back to life. The sense of accomplishment you get from that is indescribable. Check it out. This is the result. Both fenders are finished. But you know how it goes. Fix one thing, break into another. The rocker panels or sills are completely rotted out. It's bad. It all needs hammering, shaping, and welding. I was worried you guys would think I'm too slow, so I had to use my secret weapon, my super kung fu. One strike and boom, the front right section is fixed. All right, that side is done, but now I have to start on the other side. Even superheroes get tired, so I need a quick break. Let's cue up some high-energy music to keep the momentum going. Let's do this. It's been a few more days of grinding, but the welding on the driver's side is finally complete. Then we moved on to the windshield frame. The rust damage here was severe, so we had to cut that section out and weld in fresh metal to patch it up completely. The heavy lifting is finally finished. The only thing left was the windshield frame, which was a straightforward fix. I made short work of that, knocked it out in a jiffy. Now we are moving on to separating the body from the chassis. After 2 weeks of grinding, the body is finally off the frame. Looking at the chassis and powertrain, it's in rough shape. The corrosion is severe. The transmission area is a red flag. The front drive shaft is completely missing. And the engine? It feels like it's seized into a solid block of rust. Come on, put some muscle into it. All right, using the breaker bar on the crank pulley is a struggle. It budged a little, but there's heavy resistance. That confirms something is wrong internally. We need to pull the cylinder head to check the condition of the bore. Opens it. Wow, look at that. It is pure rust inside. Oh man, the pistons are caked. I was holding on to a little hope, praying for a miracle that the engine was salvageable. But reality just gave me a wake-up call. It's toast. It is completely toast. Judging by the resistance, this engine has major mechanical failure. If it didn't, there wouldn't be this much rust in the cylinder sleeves. But you know the saying, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I restore classic cars for a living. This is just another Tuesday. So, enough talk. Let's just get to work. The split second that oil started draining, I knew the deal. This stuff is ancient. Look at the consistency. It's coming out like sludge, thick as molasses and absolutely pitch black. The oil quality back then wasn't great. They used different weights for winter and summer. Judging by the high viscosity, this is likely a heavy summer weight oil. Actually, I'm surprised. There is still plenty of meat left on this clutch disc. It's usable. It has surface rust, but we can resurface and clean that up later. Man, this engine is in rough shape. Look at the carbon buildup around the exhaust ports. Holy crap! Oh my God! That explains why it was seized and wouldn't turn over. The engine block has a frost crack. This is bad news. I'm just praying that the cylinder sleeves and pistons aren't destroyed. We pulled the valve cover. Surprisingly, the valve train looks decent. No major issues there. Let's keep tearing it down. The head is finally off. Looking at the valves, you can see heavy carbon buildup and some surface rust, but it's not terrible. I'm inspecting the cylinder bores closely. Thankfully, I don't see any cracks in the sleeves, so let's keep tearing it down. Now, look inside the oil pan, sump. It is absolutely filthy. The quality of oil used here was garbage. Look at this. The oil pump, the crankshaft, the connecting rods, everything is caked in thick sludge. I have to wonder, what kind of abuse did this engine suffer to end up this messy? Let's inspect the bearings. Wipe away the oil. And yeah, this bearing is toast. If the bearing is this bad, the crankshaft is definitely scored and worn out too. I've got a bad feeling about this. This engine is turning into a massive rebuild project. We pulled the pistons out. The rings actually have decent life left, mostly just carbon buildup on the crowns. But checking the main bearings confirmed my fears. They are heavily worn, which means the crank is in bad shape. See that? My diagnosis was right. The engine block is trash. Friends, look at the block. There is a massive fracture right here. This is going to be a heavy repair job. We're going to have to V-groove the crack from end to end and weld it. Since this is aluminum, if we can weld it without it cracking further from the heat, we might save it. We need to press out the cylinder sleeves. We'll fabricate a jig to press the sleeves out from the bottom. We need to see how deep that crack goes behind the liner. The metal is actually bulging outward here. That's classic frost damage. It froze so hard, the expansion cracked the block. Honestly, seeing this makes me want to jump off a roof. I need to research the best way to stitch this up. Right now, I'm just praying that the internal oil galleries and coolant passages aren't cracked too. If the internal webbing is cracked, the block is total scrap. It seems I attract all the bad luck, friends, but I won't complain. I just have to focus and repair this block. The fact that the engine was seized told me there was internal failure. I thought, worst case scenario, I'd have to bore the cylinders, swap the rings, and replace the bearings. I never expected the block itself to be split open. See this? This is the result of running straight water instead of coolant or antifreeze. The first freeze of winter expanded the water and cracked the engine block immediately. I am honestly speechless right now. I'm praying the internal water jackets and oil galleries aren't compromised. Friends, the block has a massive fracture. We need to get this on the bench and repair it immediately. To fix a crack this big, we have to V-groove it, grinding it out from here to here. Then we weld it. Since it's cast aluminum, we have to hope the heat from welding doesn't cause stress cracks. If it does, we're back to square one. We need to press out the cylinder liners, sleeves. I need to remove them to see how deep the structural damage goes. The metal is bulging outward here, classic freeze damage. I'm praying the internal casting, the water and oil passages, isn't cracked. If the internal webbing is cracked, the block is scrap. The liners are heavily corroded. They are garbage. Look at this section. The crack goes all the way through. We need to press out all the liners to inspect the block fully. The liners themselves are a write-off. We'll replace them all. Look at the block here. It's a through crack, split wide open. Impossible. I refuse to believe it. My head is spinning. Is my luck really this bad? I restore vintage cars for a living, so I'm used to surprises. But this is a shock. But what choice do I have? We just have to bite the bullet and repair it. Quitting isn't in my vocabulary. Our motto is, if it turns, we can make it run. I believe with enough effort, we can save this engine. All right, enough talk. It's time to go into battle mode. Safety tip, put on your safety glasses. Let's pick up the pace and get this done. Let's grind. The bolts on the block are seized solid from rust. I barely applied any torque and it sheared right off. No choice but to press on. For a sheared bolt like this, we drill a pilot hole and try to back it out. If it refuses to budge, we bring out the TIG welder. We build up a nub on the broken stud to get a grip and twist it out. Once it's out, we chase the threads, or re-tap, to clean them up. Next, we mount the block on the milling machine to deck the surface, or mill it flat. The block is severely warped. It's completely uneven. One side is high and the other is low, so we actually have to weld and build up the low spots before we can machine it flat. Friends, the parts I've been dreaming about day and night are finally here. Check it out. This is the head gasket. We're swapping in a brand new one. Here are the rod bearings, and right here, these are the new cylinder sleeves. Even though these liners are brand new, the internal tolerances aren't perfect, so we have to mount them up and hone them to the exact spec. Once the bores are dialed in, they are good to go. Next up is the crankshaft. We need to polish the journals. The bearings are shot, so those are getting a full replacement. Now, you'd assume that with the block, liners, and crank prepped, we're ready to start the assembly, right? Not so fast. Look at this, another headache. The main bearing bores are misaligned. The crank binds up and won't turn freely. We have to put the block back on the machine and line bore it to get everything concentric. After 10 grueling days, the machining work on the crankshaft and the block is finally done. Next, we sandblasted the block to strip it down to bare metal. I tell you, ever since I started these restorations, my painting game has really leveled up. Check it out, I laid down the paint on the block in no time. While the paint cures on the block, there's no time to rest. We sandblasted all the accessory parts and hit them with a coat of anti-rust primer. Look at this spread. This is the payoff for all that hard work. Every single part is prepped and ready. Now it is finally time for the rebuild.
Friends, it's been a solid month of work, but the engine is finally fully rebuilt. Now for the moment of truth. Let's crank it over and see if she fires up. Give it some gas. Hit it! Listening to that, it sounds like we either have a compression leak, a sealing issue, or the ignition timing is off. The distributor needs to be rotated. We need to dial that in and try again. Whoa! Did you guys see that? She fired up! She's alive! Ah! Friends, look at that! It took a solid month, but I've finally tamed this beast. Now we keep the momentum going. We're gonna do a full restoration on the body shell and interior. Full throttle. Let's get it done. Yeah! With the engine sorted, it's time to tackle the chassis and the body. We're hauling them off for sandblasting and a fresh paint job. Anything that needs swapping out gets replaced. Anything salvageable gets restored. All right, folks, the journey with this classic is far from over. Stick around. We're doing this together.